Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Gunnar Greenlee,
Hey,
welcome to the show, man.
thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, how have you been?
Good. Yeah, pretty good. Been super busy lately, but everything's been great.
We have been. You know, you and I have a really interesting journey. So our stories connected. It was end of 2017. Had just gotten into the real estate business a little bit, and it was early in the morning. I remember this like it was yesterday. Was just slammed and busy and answering emails, and this resume comes across my email from the main brokerage.
Yeah.
And I shot you an email. What time was it? You remember?
Like 2:30, 3 a.m.
No, it wasn't.
It was like
that
3
early?
or 4, yeah.
So I send you this early morning email, and I'm like, hey, really busy. If you're looking for an opportunity, I've got one. You know, can you show up at 7 a.m. at the office or something that was kind of late for me, but maybe early for everybody else. And there you are. Talk about kind of what was going on for you leading up to that, because we've had a really cool journey just together as men and leaders in the business space, especially in real estate. And I know we'll talk about all that, but kind of just share your story leading up to what got you to sending that email and then you and I getting connected here.
Yeah, I graduated from CSU in Fort Collins in 2017 and kind of took the summer just doing my own thing throughout the summer, then started applying to jobs. Ended up getting a job in Denver, and I was like a wholesale kind of boiler room-esque, kind of shady. They wholesaled real estate to investors. And I would drive from Fort Collins to Denver every day for 3 months, 100% commission. Didn't make $1 for 3 months, went through all my savings. I was like, I don't even want to work in this corporate kind of structure, kind of the way it was set up was just so weird, into the drive and everything. So I was trying to look more locally, kind of something more, low key, not corporate. And I reached out to C3, got my resume sent out to a bunch of the agents. And then, you reached out and said you were looking for somebody to help run real estate business, and met with you, just had a day, kind of went. Actually, the first day I was with you, I went on a listing appointment. And
We did.
Yeah, we went and met some people that wanted to sell their house, and I just kind of hung out with you, went in your car and just went some appointments and talked and just hung out, really.
So when you were graduating CSU, and I didn't even realize this because I'm a fellow RAM CSU graduate, but how many finance degrees do they have? Because you got all of them, didn't you?
Yeah, so they have a Bachelor of Science for business, and then you choose a concentration, which is accounting, management. I did finance, but then finance has its own sub-concentrations. When I decided I was going to do finance, I didn't know which sub-concentration I was going to do, but my junior year, they changed the rules that you could take electives that weren't business elective, or that were business electives. So you had to have electives that weren't business concentrated. And then they changed it. So then I was like, well, I'll just do all the sub-concentrations of finance. So I ended up with investment analysis, corporate finance, and real estate finance. According to my counselor, I was the first one to graduate with all three of them, but I wasn't recognized, or nobody else told me except my counselor during a meeting once. But
And then you rolled out and got your real estate license, in 30 days?
Yeah.
Right? You got it super quick.
Yep, in October of 2017, I got a job in that Denver office, and I needed to have a license to do it. And I started the job in 30 days. So I just locked myself in my room for 30 days and just went through all the courses and took the tests.
And you passed first time?
Yep.
Which is rare, right? Because there's people that take that test a
number of times. I think average to get through all the courses is 3 months if you just do it on a normal job schedule. But I did the whole every day, all day.
Just jamming on it.
Yeah.
And then here we are, 7 years later.
Yeah, because I started officially working January 1st of 2018.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a learning year. I remember we went through just kind of a learning year, getting in a good rhythm, and then we started becoming more, of a partnership in the business than hey, you're my, assistant, whatever we called it at the beginning. But I guess just what have been some of the big lessons you've learned? Because one of the big things that I saw in you is, meeting with kids your age coming out of college at that time, 2017, 18. I have not met a lot that are as driven and intelligent and motivated as you. So where did that come from for you? What's your background? Where does that come from? And did you see other friends in school that had it?
Yeah. So for me personally, it came from, I think, just the way I grew up. I grew up in the country in Elizabeth, Colorado. So, I worked we only had like an acre or two, but cutting down trees after school or on the weekends with my parents, like I could go do what I wanted to do, but I had to do the chores. But the chores weren't just like, doing the dishes. It was like mowing acres of lawn, cutting trees down, chopping branches, weed eating acres. And my dad owns an auto repair shop. And I used to, even when I was like in first grade, kindergarten, I would go with him when he used to own one in Denver, and I'd go clean the freezer fridges at the gas station part, clean the car wash. And then in high school, every day after school, I would go do oil changes, brake changes, tire changes. And before college, I thought I would just take over the family business. Like my parents always ingrained, like own your own business, like, be your own boss, basically. So at first I thought I was going to just own the auto repair shop and take over the family business. But after college, we kind of went off, and they wanted me to like go off, and they invested in me to be able to go do my own thing and kind of see what I wanted to do.
I was going to ask you that. I know that some families with family businesses, those kids they're born and bred and raised, and they're told at an early age, you're going to be in the business, right? And then some end up in the business, and some they go the other way. But you were given that freedom.
Yeah, I think they kind of wanted me to do that and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. But I always had that kind of motivation ingrained in me from them to figure out what I want to do, go out and be successful and motivated, and have fun. They're definitely fun people, but
they are
very serious and like have fun, but have a purpose. Yeah.
What other kind of values did they instill in you that you're carrying today?
Yeah. Well, I think the like good work ethic is a big one, and I think a lot of it's just kindness and respectfulness. To other people. Empathy, I think, is a big thing. Yeah. And I think that all their values and morals kind of just went on to me growing up, and I went off and did my own thing, but I still held on to those values and morals.
I love it. Now talk about the real estate journey, because, I got into the business at a very lucrative time, right? Like everybody's buying, everybody's selling, money's cheap, real estate is moving and flowing. And now we're in a different kind of a market right now. So talk about that initial journey. If somebody's watching and they're looking to get into a business, like real estate or similar to it, like just talk about your first couple of years when, you came alongside me under the wing per se.
Yeah.
Right? And just kind of play that out for people. Cause I thought it was an interesting journey. We learned a lot about the business together, and I think each other along the way.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting business to get into, because at the beginning, it's not all about how a normal business, you can market yourself all you want, and like you can have the best product and you can do the marketing that way. But in real estate, it's almost it's the same price, almost, negotiable, but for everybody. So why would they go with somebody that's only been doing it for a year when they could go for somebody that's doing it for 30 years, And I think it's about showing who you are as a person. I think the marketing of the business and like your personal life and like how you carry yourself are very hand in hand, and it's not very separated at all. So starting off, and it's also great to have a mentor, somebody you come under, because, you have like the businesses and the people know who you are and trust you. So learning all the ins and outs of just the business and transactional part of it is easy, but then you have to actually, be out there and sociable and like just a good person in general. And people need to see that from you in order to trust you, so that you can go on. And sometimes it might take a little while for people to trust you with, real estate is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, transactions somebody will do in their whole life. So it's not a small thing to have somebody trust you with.
Well, and I remember that's probably first 2 years. You were more so, you were doing deals. They were just starting to come into the pipe, but you were mainly focusing a lot on just helping me on the back end of a lot of the deals that I had. I've been in Northern Colorado for decades, right? Probably longer than you've been alive. I've been here. So those deals are coming in. But then I remember the day you came to me, you're like, man, my social media, I'm just posting on social. And you had all of this business just coming from a totally different source, right? Just purely from social. So talk a little bit about that transition from, being more of an assistant to me as I'm mentoring you to, you're really building a book of business within our team right now. And it's been really cool to see that. So just talk about that journey and that transition a little bit.
Yeah. So, at the beginning, it's, a lot of the learning and just seeing how I can help differentiate myself, but also bring the team forward and everything. So after I got the actual real estate and the business part down, which is the best, like, I feel like I got that down. It's easy for me to do and comes naturally. Then having all the deals on your belt and then figuring out how you want to market yourself to get more business and have people see that that's what you're doing. That's what your job is. It's not just like a side job, it's your career. And I found for me, marketing my personal and my business together on social media was helping more than like the email campaigns and some of the other things that I was doing, because people were scrolling through Facebook and they would see, oh, Gunnar did something fun with his family, having a good time with his life. But then the next post you would see, oh, I helped a family buy a house. And then it was kind of that back and forth of personal and business that really people would think real estate. They, my age people are starting to get married, get houses. And then the first person they think of is me, because that's what they see on their social media every day.
And you were doing a really good balance of that. So is that just an intentional strategy? Is that just how you've kind of always been doing it?
Yeah. So at first I had, specifically with Instagram, I still have my Facebook page that's separate, but Instagram, I did have a real estate page and then a personal page. And then I decided at one point, sometime in like 2020 or 21, that I wanted to get rid of the business page and just have one page that was just me and my life. And so I did intentionally mix it. And then if I have too much business, too much personal, I will try to balance it out. But it was intentional to bring it together, because both of them are part of my life. My fun and personal part and the business is one and the same in terms of just like my life. So I didn't want to have it separated out.
And every year, I mean, it's growing, and we're 7 years in? I think it's been so long. We're counting it out, right? 7, 8?
5. Wait,
5?
Yeah, 6. Oh, almost 7. Yeah, so it'll be 7 in January.
Yeah, coming up on
right.
7. And when did you feel like for you your book of business really started taking root? Because I just ask that because a lot of people, business owners, right, whether they're in real estate or painting, whatever the business is, they see what's happening now 5, 7, 10 years down the road for whatever professional they're looking at, whatever business owner, and they're like, oh, that looks glamorous, that looks great, look at all this business, but it takes some time.
Yeah, definitely takes time. It takes a lot of money to start. I mean, it's like running a business. You could be a real estate agent for any brokerage, but it's like starting a business. You have to do your own marketing, accounting, and obviously we do it together. But I mean, if you just came out and just wanted to start yourself, like it takes a lot of knowledge, people, and money to start it. And then it's always changing. It's not the same when I started in 2018 that it is now. Because I started at a weird time in 2018, 2019. It was kind of just like a normal, houses would stay on the market for 2 to 3 months, and that was normal. And then all of a sudden, everything changed. You didn't know what was going to happen. Everybody thought maybe there was going to be a crash after 2020, but obviously it didn't happen. And
no, that's when it got just crazy wild.
Then everything was different. Nothing was the same as it was before. Houses are flying off the market in like 2 seconds. People were scared to buy and sell, but yet we're buying like crazy because I think a lot of people were still making a lot of money at the time. And so then you get out to where we are now, and then it's completely different now than it was then. Kind of closer to what it was before, but a little bit slower actually, because people are really timid with just how the economy is and everything. So it's always changing. You never know when you get into it if 5 years from now you're going to still be in it, because you don't know how the waves of the world are going to be.
Well, and when I got in, it seemed like anybody could get in and was getting in because the money was easy. It's like if you know some people, you send out your postcards or whatever you do.
There is a stereotype that everybody and their mom, becomes a real estate agent when they're bored or want to get, a side job or something.
And then how do you think you persevered through it as things got difficult? Because, I mean, I remember that shift when things started crashing, but becoming like that fruit that was low-hanging started moving up the tree. You just saw a lot of people go away.
Yeah.
So, what's been your key, and what are you doing? What would you recommend to people to stay consistent and grow and be able to still do business during the tougher times in a business like this?
Yeah, I would say one is, even when you are in your doing good phase, don't let your pipeline or what you were doing before slow down or stop, because eventually you're going to have all those closings and then you're going to be left with nothing else. That's like a whole year that you have to rebuild everything up. So you should just keep building it and don't get too comfortable, because it's not just going to keep coming on its own all the time. Especially at the beginning, you need to put in the work and keep putting in the work when you get getting is good,
Yeah, absolutely. Now you also started investing in real estate. So kind of talk a little bit about that journey. So you're literally, 7 years ago, just graduating college, right? You grow up entrepreneurial family. Your parents are like, hey, spread your wings, go out into the world. You get all these degrees, you graduate, blow through, spend through all your savings, working at a boiler room
Yeah.
You call it hack shop, just
Yeah.
high pressure.
So imagine like Wolf of Wall Street, everybody's yelling on the phones and you can hear everybody in the room is all talking on the phones, calling their investors, running to houses to try to basically silent bid right there in the front yard of the house.
I mean, it was like pandemonium. Right?
Yeah,
just
it was crazy.
Literally controlled chaos, and then you leave that. You know, we jump in together, and now here you are. So I mean, talk about the investment journey of your real estate journey. Like you literally graduated, had nothing, no money, and you put some faith in me. Jump out here, and you are about to close on another piece of real estate for yourself.
Yeah. So
just like this week, right?
Yeah, on Friday.
Love it, man. Talk about that. Yeah.
So a good friend that I met when I went to CSU, he was also a finance degree. He does commercial real estate, and I do residential. And we were good friends, and we decided while I still lived in Fort Collins, and he was in Castle Rock, I was talking about maybe we should buy a house as an investment in Denver, and move into it, get the personal residence interest rates and all that. And we knew where we wanted to move. Rhino was like very up and coming, and still is, but it's blown up crazy in the last 2 years I've lived there. But we decided to buy a townhome out there with the intention to eventually leave and probably buy another one. And so that was in October of 2020, about the first one, and which was a great timing. Who would have known? But now, we got our second one. We're going to move out of the one we live in now and move to another one in Denver, and then rent out the one I currently live in. Cool.
And then your guys' plan, right? Just to keep house hacking, keep rolling into the next ones.
I forget who wrote the book, but he was a Fort Collins agent, but he wrote a book called The Nomad Strategy, which is basically, especially if you're single and don't have kids, or you could but it's easier if you're single and don't have kids, is the buy a house, move into it with the intention of buying the next house and moving into that, and just keeping the old ones as the rentals or the investment properties, so you can get those interest rates and the perks of having it as your personal residence. So they kind of call it the nomad strategy.
Yeah.
And I think I'll just continue doing that until, I get more settled down.
Until you settle down.
Yeah.
You thinking about doing that anytime soon?
Not soon, but
we've had a joke going. So you're in a committed relationship right now. But before you were, we always had this joke going as we were out doing real estate together. I was always trying to search for a great lady for you.
Yeah.
So
I've been known for being single for a long time. So it's definitely a cool new thing that, that's new, I think 3 weeks ago. So now I'm in a committed relationship now. So nowhere near marriage. I might get another house before that happens. We'll see.
You think a house comes before marriage for you?
No. I mean,
or a third house?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how long we stay in this one. I didn't think I'd be buying another one this fast either. So it could happen faster. Who knows? But we'll see how it goes.
We're going to totally tangent from real estate just because I'm curious. I remember we were at the M&E painting company Christmas party. If you remember that, this was when you were first working with us. Mm-hmm. And I was joking with you. You're on was it Tinder or all these dating apps? I didn't have those. Growing up in college, I was talking to Emily about this. We met at a bar. Mm-hmm. But like, what's that scene look like with all the apps and the ways to meet people? Because I was joking. I'm like, I don't know what I would have done with Tinder if that would have been a good thing and not so good thing.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But like, what's that dating scene look like? I just think it was different when we were back in the day.
I mean, it's different than when I was, because in college it was different. Like I was meeting people constantly all the time, but you also had the apps. So like college, like 13 to 17, it was just a constant meeting people all the time. You didn't even really need the app. Sometimes you had it just because, but then after college, it's still kind of like that, meeting a lot of people. You're still young. But I feel like the COVID thing really just changed everything because everybody got so used to being inside. Then the apps came a lot more important because you're not actually meeting people out at restaurants or bars or anything. So if you're going to meet someone new that you haven't met before, even if it's just like a friend, it was probably through that because people weren't going out and being social.
So then would you'd find them on an app and then would you just doing a video call, FaceTime kind of a deal?
No, we'd meet up as long as, during COVID, people didn't know if they were cool with it. Usually, you go to a restaurant, mask up and hang out.
And then just go hang?
Yeah. And then after COVID, it was still different. Also, it's like this timeline of things changing with social in the world. Also me going from a 21-year-old to a almost 30-year-old. So just the way I interact with people changed. But yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting.
How's that feeling for you being almost 30? I remember when I hit 30, how's that for you? You're 28. It's coming up soon.
Yep. 29 November. All my friends are just like a year older than me, not much older, but I always say, you guys are old. Once you're 30, I don't think I can hang out with you anymore until I'm 30.
That's the cut. That's the cutoff right there.
But no, it's interesting. I think it's cool. Going through the 20s and then coming into the 30s and being okay with it. Like, I like the progression of, career and social and just how everything's been going. I like the progression.
What have been some of your biggest lessons just as a man, right? In the business and the leadership and the life space, because we met when you're in you're closer to 20. Mm-hmm. Now you're closer to 30. We've had almost a decade together. So like, what have been some of your top leadership lessons and life lessons that you'd want to pass along to somebody listening to this, watching this?
I think a big one that I realized that there's two things. One of it's kind of on my little paint thing, but the thing I learned like growing up is a lot of empathy and a lot of forgiveness is good for the people that you're having that towards, but also for you. I think holding like a grudge or having something in you can eat at you more than what just forgiving would, and that will also help that person out. Can you imagine somebody doing something to you that's really mean or hurtful, but instead of just getting defensive or coming at them right away, you just kind of forgave them? I think that would do more for them than coming at them about it or holding something against them. It might help them a lot more, and your own peace.
Now, did you learn that? Did you feel like that was a character quality that you had growing up, instilled in you? Because, dude, your parents are amazing. It was funny. So the first time I met your mom before I met your dad, but then in conversations with both of them, right, like individually and together, I'm like, I'm closer to your parents' age than like I could be your dad, age wise. But they're just such great people. You can tell from meeting them that they've instilled just amazing values into you.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was something that you struggled with, or just comes naturally? Because that can be hard for me, especially in the business space. You see something go wrong in business, or we had a couple of real estate deals go sideways, and you kind of take it personally. Mm-hmm. You're a little pissed off. You harbor some resentment. So kind of talk through that. Where did that come from for you? And then is it natural, or do you still fight it? Because I feel like I still fight it.
Yeah, I think it's gotten harder the older I got, because I think it was always kind of natural in me growing up. I never had drama in high school or middle school. Like, I was always pretty cool with everybody all the time. But then when you get older and, there's a lot more serious issues than what you had when you were younger, and a lot more things on the line and just a lot more people in your life, I feel like I've focused on it more in terms of I realized that I had it and a lot of people might not have it. And I think it's a good thing to have. But also I've learned that when I did fall short of, like, when I didn't have forgiveness or I wasn't being empathetic, I learned that it was hurting me more. And I didn't really have that back then. So now I'm learning it's something I had, but now I'm kind of more focused on, because I realize what both sides of it feel like.
Yeah.
And I can see other people who, at one point in my life, I feel like sometimes I felt like, okay, somebody's walking on me or somebody's not treating me right. I'm just letting them do it. So then I try to stop letting people walk on me, and then I stop. And then not that they were walking on me, I was still standing up for myself, but I felt like, okay, I don't need to prove myself to them or try to hold something against them. They're not walking on me. I can still stand my ground, but I can also have empathy and forgiveness and just take the higher road.
No, and that's huge. I mean, huge in especially in this kind of business too. If you look at it from the business standpoint, the life standpoint. What else? Like, what have been some other just big takeaways? What would you tell your 22-year-old self, fresh out of college, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people say this, but I would say to care a little bit less if I was younger. Not care less about what's important and still have a purpose, but not everything's the end of the world. That grade that I got in that one class wasn't gonna kill the rest of my life. Still focus and be responsible, but be a little lighthearted. And I still tell myself that now, because I know when I'm 50, I'm going to be like, hey, you should have done that instead of worrying and not doing that thing, Don't have regrets. Yeah.
Now we've gone through a lot. We had a really fun adventure together, and I've talked about this on the podcast with other people that have been part of this, but we went on the first official ever Ultimate Immersion Experience over to Spain. Talk about that. Was that your first time to Spain?
Yeah, that was my first time to Europe. That was the first time across the Atlantic.
So that was your first time ever coming over. Talk about that, because man, we had some fun times with the gang over there. I had a lot of memories, a lot of leadership lessons, really cool experiences. But what were some of the top takeaways from Ultimate Immersion for you?
Yeah, I really I've always wanted to travel, and I really like Europe and just different cultures. And I thought that was cool because the United States has a lot of different parts to it. And then, I've been south and like Mexico and the Caribbean and all the islands, but I've never went somewhere where the culture or like, I guess the civilization of it is very close to the United States, but it's a whole different culture and people. So, nobody spoke English. Like you go to Mexico and like they speak Spanish and English, but you go to Spain and it's French, German, and Spanish. And it was actually harder to communicate, but I thought it was a really cool thing to learn. And, just things you've never seen. It's not the same over there. It's here. It's like a whole different just geography, everything. It was really cool. That was my favorite part, is just seeing the culture and just like people are living over there. I've never been that far across the world,
What was the most surprising difference? Because a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences. But what was like the biggest one that hit you?
Yeah, I think the culture is definitely a lot slower. I was like, but very late at night, they start eating very late, and then waking up a little bit later too. And I don't know, it was just very different. And like everybody was very more slower pace, hanging out in the parks during the middle of the day with their families, especially in the afternoons. But here, everybody's walking fast, doing everything, talking fast. So that was a big difference I noticed.
And what was your most memorable of the challenges? Without giving too much away, because did you win any of the challenges, or who was always the winner? Was it always Stephen? Hey, just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. If you're a small business owner, one of the things that you need to navigate to be successful is all things online and digital in terms of marketing and your messaging. Imprint Digital, they're the real deal. They are the professionals, and they know this world inside and out. Make sure to visit their website at imprint-digital.com. Hey, if you're a business owner and you need to do some renovation in your space or possibly build a building from the ground up, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. Mendel Construction is a commercial construction company that's been around since 1997, serving all of Colorado. They can do a small tenant finish all the way up to ground up construction of a new building for your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com. That's MENDEL and company.com. If you're a Christian small business owner and you live in Northern Colorado, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian executive peer advising group that connects other business owners in the community to help you focus on your faith, your life, your leadership, and your business. Make sure to check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. A big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D was actually founded by my wife Emily and I back in 2005. And for the last 2 decades, we've been here in Northern Colorado of one of the leaders in residential and commercial repainting, as well as most recently installing residential roofs. So if you need to paint, re-roof, you got hit by a hailstorm, we can take care of whatever your home needs from top to bottom. You can find us on the web at mandepainting.com.
Yeah, it was Steven because he took pictures of these like little, I forget what it was. It was like this, what was it?
It was the nodo, right?
Nodo.
So it's like a little image emblem of a knot. It's the, what would you call it? It's one of the symbols of Seville. And you would never know. Mm-hmm. You'd never know that they're there until you know that they're there. And we did a challenge where I said, hey, take a picture with one.
Yeah.
And he went.
Yeah,
the kid just went running around. He had like 400.
He got all the points from that. Yeah,
every single one.
And they also beat us back, I think, which I was surprised because we took a taxi. I don't know how they beat us back, but that was really cool. I think the challenge on that, I don't know what I can give away, but just like asking directions, with words that maybe you didn't know how to ask because you don't really know where you are either. So you're trying to point out landmarks or like try to describe what you're trying to say, and the people on the bench are like confused because I don't think they're, especially when we went in 21 of March. No,
22. 22. Yeah, it was just last month.
Oh yeah,
March 22. But we're still trail ending out of COVID. They're still
so we still had to have
there.
the masks on the airports and our cards and everything, and so they weren't used to seeing American tourists for years at that point. So I think that was kind of interesting because when I would meet somebody and say that I was American, like, wow, you came so far. I haven't seen American in like 2 years. So I think it was also kind of fun to see them, be surprised to see Americans there because I think that was still hasn't happened for a few years, like on a bigger scale.
Well, and now that people are back, because I was just over there with, well, I go over every year. I was there with Haley last, and it's really picked back up because, you know, our buddy Angel, right, with the ceramic store, he's like, man, it was quiet. And that's not good for business. He goes, now it's just crazy. The snapback over there. He can't get a break, but it's just is what it is.
Yeah. I think the tourism being picked up, I think everybody realized, oh, I want to go now. It's been 2 years and I'm going to go do these fun things. And people are traveling all over now.
So you're over there when we took the team, because this was a trial run. So both Ultimate Immersion and the Hike of a Lifetime, I'm taking a group of businessmen, business leaders over just in a little bit, just about a month from now. You know, it's just sharing my passion, but I didn't tell you guys that much in terms of like what we were going to be doing. I gave you a rough itinerary. I said, hey, we're going to have some adventures, some challenges, you know, some experiences. No one's going to die, but you're going to be put into some unique situations and unique challenges. But like, what's going through your head? What was the just craziest moment where you're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And then what was the lesson? Because I remember most from this experience is we would sit down at dinner. And at least for me, it was end of the day. We were recapping the day, talking about the struggles, the challenges, and what we learned individually and as a team. But, you know, kind of take me through that. What were some of your frustrations, but then lessons within those?
Yeah. So I think just kind of doing the walking around all of Sevilla and trying to find, you know, the landmarks. That part was for me the most fun, but also the most challenging because, you know, you're kind of off by yourself in somewhere you don't know, walking, asking directions from strangers, trying to talk to them. Like, I think for some of the things, the rules were to talk to them in Spanish. So ordering something, hoping you're saying it right. And then, you know, not really knowing anything. You don't know, like, necessarily how the tipping culture is, or like, I remember one time, like, they stand up when they eat breakfast. And sometimes in some places you can't just sit down in the restaurant unless you like ask them to let you do that. Yeah. So sometimes when somebody's like, no, you can't do that, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. But sometimes you don't even understand what they're asking you. So it's just kind of like trying to interact with them and like learn how their systems work. That was the most challenging, but it was also the most fun. It was kind of the most nerve-wracking because, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You don't want to like offend anybody, but at the same time, it was kind of fun because I was like, instead of learning about it by reading or having somebody tell you, kind of just learned by trial and error.
Yeah, we dove right in.
Yeah.
What was the biggest leadership lesson that you would pull back to the stateside here? I mean, what did you learn there that you're now applying in life and business and everything that you're doing back here?
Yeah, I think one of the big things, there's a couple of things, I guess, on that whole traveling around trying to find everything was everybody had their own unique perspectives and strengths and weaknesses in terms of figuring out what to do next. So kind of listening to everybody and trying to come up with a good plan. And then kind of at some point you realize who's really good at some things and who might not be good at others. So somebody's really good at reading the maps. Some person's really good at talking to the people. And then after some trial and error, you kind of get a better system down of, okay, this person's going to lead us on the map. This person's going to go talk to this stranger. This person's going to count the cash out or whatever, you know, order the taxi. So everybody kind of figured out at the end where everybody's strengths were. And that helped everything run more smoother after you got kind of more into it and kind of learned how it worked.
So you got you guys did have a really good team dynamic towards the end of that. And then you really had everybody in their lane. And who's on your team? I'm trying to remember how did the teams break up?
Oh man, I can't remember. I think Danielle, me, Kevin, and I can't remember. Kevin was...
That was in Seville?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who it was. But yeah, we split up and we would see the other team on the other side of the road or something and we'd try to race them. One time we were in the taxi, we were like waving at them as they were walking. And then they still beat us back. I don't know how. But
what was the most memorable, not so much of the challenges, but just of what we did over there? What was your favorite experience apart from the challenges?
Yeah. I think my favorite, so two things. Walking around was really fun, just not even doing a specific thing, but just like going through the alleyways, smelling the smells of the oranges, which are different than anything I've ever had over here. Oranges isn't the same there as here.
No.
But yeah, just experiencing, just walking around, seeing people, how they talk with each other. But then also the Sevilla Cathedral in the Granada. So it's called, yeah, that was amazing. I really love architecture and history. Mm-hmm. And I knew that cathedrals were really big over there, but I didn't expect that. Like,
yeah, that's the biggest Gothic cathedral in the world, I think, and then third biggest in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like? I mean, you got Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, it was
right there, and just all.
I don't get really emotional, but I almost felt like I wanted to tear up walking in there. It was just huge. It's crazy to think somebody can build something that big, and I mean, and I'm not Catholic, but building something like that for something I do believe in, like Jesus and God and stuff. That's like, wow, this is for them, and it's huge, and it's like the biggest thing I've ever seen man-made. You know. And I also really like the Gothic architecture, and that style is really cool to me.
Yeah, I remember the day we did the rooftop tour, but it was rainy. It's kind of rainy, kind of gloomy, but it was really cool.
I think it matched the vibe of the cathedral.
It totally did.
Yeah.
What kind of perspective did that trip have to do just with your faith? Right. So you mentioned your faith, and we didn't really talk about that much in the podcast. But did you grow up with a faith? How did you come to faith? Like, what's your story of finding and believing in Jesus?
Yeah. Well, I did grow up in it. My parents are both Christian and everything. And, but I didn't just follow it just cause. I definitely did my own research. I actually was something I was really into when I was younger. I really liked researching things and studying, and especially cause I like history. And so I would like to mix the historical perspective and like the biblical historical perspective. Cause I used to read history books for fun. So I think that helped me just kind of find my own way and just like proving to myself that this is what I believe and this is what I like. And so definitely went my own way and found that. And then now I think that my parents and I are on the same page, but also have different perspectives on things. It's kind of interesting because we can argue or agree on different things, but we all have the same, perspective on the core values. And I always say that, I'm a Christian or I'm religious. I usually say that I have a relationship with Jesus. I don't follow a certain, I think maybe religion is flawed because man is flawed. So my perspective is a relationship and the authority of the Bible more than following any specific sect of Christianity.
And then how do you walk in that every day? Like, how do you bring that to your business and your leadership and your story?
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to my empathy and forgiveness thing. I think one thing a lot of people forget about, like when you talk about Christian values and stuff, everybody talks about, a lot of the main ones, but I think forgiveness, we talk about the forgiveness of Jesus to us, which is the most important thing. That's the main core value of Christianity, but also why is it so important? Why don't we do that to other people? And I think if the world forgave each other for things, I think there would be a lot less wars and problems if people learn to see people from their perspective and know that we're not all the same and we don't have to be the same, but just understand we're coming from different walks of life and be empathetic and forgiving, and we probably have less problems.
Definitely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I just think of like what we go through with just real estate transactions and how just like wired up everybody gets.
It can get tense sometimes.
They say that we're the step down transformers for all of these,
Yeah. And psychiatrists too, and all the above.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. Right. It's like you take the real estate exam, you don't use anything really from the real estate exam. And then I feel like a lot of time it's, there's the sales and the marketing, and you need to understand what you're doing, right? Understand what's happening with all the sides of the transaction. But yeah, it feels like you're counseling, coaching, psychiatrist, and just a de-escalator, right?
Yeah. De-escalator is a big one.
That can happen.
Yeah. You got to help people realize, to trust you and to trust themselves and to just go through the process, be patient. I think patience is a big thing. And, if there is emotions, we need to wait for the emotions, to calm down a little bit so you don't make any decisions you regret. And I think that's where we come in, where we've been through it enough times with enough people that we know how, when they get into that mindset, to maybe help them calm down and make the right decision and, understand where they're coming from. But we've been there, so we know how to help them get through it.
I love that. And, where I'd love to lead, because we got about 20 minutes left is what it feels like. Yeah. Thanks. I'm peeking over at the clock here. Man, we've heard, your story, young entrepreneur, jumping into business. We're taking a risk with each other. We're sitting here. I feel like there's got to be new agents, right? New real estate agents, people just getting into business, but specifically real estate. What would you say are some of the things that they can do to differentiate themselves, to be successful? Because if you can be successful in a downed market, when things pick up, it's only going to get that much better, Right?
Yeah.
So like, what would be some of your top tips for people getting into the business to be successful?
Yeah. I'm still even trying to figure all that out myself. But I think the big thing is, the personable part, like we were saying, how I kept my personal and business Instagram together. I think there's so many salesy agents out there and kind of maybe some stereotypical ways that business is run. And I think people want, a more personable experience. I think the whole idea of like a boutique type thing, having a personal relationship with the customers and your clients is a big thing. And then in terms of just marketing, I think there's so many things coming up, but I think content's a big thing just because, you can read mail, you can read posts all you want, but seeing somebody talk and having these conversations, I think can differentiate a lot. It gets somebody to feel like they know you. And
then, that's what drove a lot of your business, right? Because you were putting out a lot of content, putting it on the social media. I was a little bit more old school. I wouldn't call it the advantage, but I had a good network of people that I know here in town. I sat down and just did real estate reviews. I remember I got into the business. I go, here's the people that I'm going to reach out to. And I said, here's an annual update on your home and the value. And then that just started turning into conversations. Yeah. So,
and I think, like how you were doing it and how you get a lot of your business, I think if I could do more is just being sociable and out there in the world, like going to kids' sports games, going to church, going to a restaurant, the same restaurant maybe that you go to once a week, that you get to know the people there. Just being out and meeting people and them seeing you and on a consistent basis, I think is huge. And there's so many different ways you can do that. But joining, networking groups or doing podcasts, anything where you can just get out in front of people and they can see you. There's so many ways to do it, but I think that's probably the biggest thing.
What's been your biggest frustration in the growth of the business? And how do you work through that?
Yeah, I think for me, it was, being newer and trying to get the clients. Getting the clients is the hardest part. Like for me, the actual job is the easiest part for me. Like I feel like I'm good at it, but getting people to see you and use you, that's kind of the frustration. But I know I wasn't the first and second year. It wasn't just going to come, and it's starting, pay off. They say it takes about 5 years, in real estate to actually get off the ground. So you got to be patient, got to put in the work. And I think it's starting to pay off, a lot more now. I've been in almost 7 years now, so I can see where but that was with the frustration, you send out 200 pieces of mail, you go do open houses and you're like, I haven't got a client yet, where it's been like a year.
Yeah, no, I talk to a lot of new agents and I share too. I go, it's not, whatever market you get in, just plan to make no money, like plan to net no money for 2 years. And if you can have that cushion and that patience, that was one of the big things that I learned. And I remember, so I wouldn't get so frustrated. You meet somebody at an open house, it's a new person, new connection and relationship. Maybe you'll work together, maybe not. But I'm like, I'm sure this person whose house we've painted or who I already have a relationship with in something else, they're definitely going to hire me to do real estate, right? Yeah. I don't know about you, but man, that was my biggest letdown. That was a tough thing for me to get over is, they're going to sell their house. Well, great. Love to meet. We're, this is our agent.
Yeah.
What do you mean? But we're friends or we train jiu-jitsu together. And that was tough to get over.
It is hard. And I've noticed in real estate, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I've had, family that's used me. And those were some of the most difficult transactions I ever went through because, you have a whole history and really close connection with them. So you feel like you don't want to let them down and they're trusting you. Yeah. And I've also had family that didn't use me. And I'm like, why? What's the reason? You just use somebody that you just met or found, but I've known you my whole life. And I'm not saying just go hire your brother's real estate agent because I feel like I have the track record they should have hired me. But, so it is kind of a weird business where you're working with family or not working with family. And that can be an interesting thing to have to go through.
Yeah, because just everybody's dynamic plays out in real estate more. So whatever their personality is, it's gonna be expanded. It's gonna show up more in those transactions. And I'm thinking too, like what's been some of our craziest? Because for me, there's been a couple where we've pulled the plug. Mm-hmm. The deal, we were getting the deal going, and we're like, there is no way that we're going to be able to meet this person's needs. They're never going to be happy. There was one in particular, you're not going to share names, being respectful of the people in the situation, but where you just got to pull the plug. But I mean, what would you say about that? When would you recommend as a new agent or existing agent where you've got a deal and you just know it ain't going to go well?
Yeah.
Like I remember one in particular that we should have pulled the plug on.
Yeah. There's different situations, but I think you definitely just want to work with people that you want to work with. I know at the beginning you need to get those clients and you kind of don't always have a choice. You don't want to be in over your head either and try to help somebody that you have no, experience to be able to help, because then you're going to be in deeper trouble than you ever want to be. But yeah, sometimes you just got to pull the plug if it's just not going to work out and it's just going to be worse in the end. Then, sometimes they're just disrespectful to you and you're like, if you want my help, I'll help you. But if you don't, I'm not going to do it. And sometimes it's, especially when you're newer, you don't want to give up the business.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's better to just, give up the business and work towards the other ones, keep focused on what works for you. But yeah, sometimes there's some crazy transactions.
We've had some interesting ones, but I mean, it's also been like, I think of some of the amazing ones, I remember a couple, they were just so in love with this house. And, again, I probably don't know if I can share their name, but they were so in love with this house and it got taken. Right. So we wrote an offer. We sent it over first and another agent had sent an offer. And we think that agent knew the listing agent. So they didn't even present ours is what it ended up like. So these guys were devastated. I'm like, put in a backup offer. And every week our buyers, they're checking with us. Hey, how's the backup? They're hoping this contract fails. Right. Yeah. So they get the house. And then it literally was the weekend leading up to closing. It was Super Bowl weekend. And that Friday we called the agent. It's like, yeah, that this house is closing on Monday. Yeah. So I remember Super Bowl Sunday, either did you get the call or we got a group text that the deal fell through. I can't remember why the deal fell through. And like this family, they were so excited and they closed on it right away. Like we got it closed in like 10 more days. Everything went through. And that's fun to be able to get somebody into, like, they knew that home was the home they were supposed to be in.
That is the most fun. The clients that have like a future of plans in that house, where like they're having a family or they're starting a job or like having kids, and that house, they're just so excited and that's when they want and they get it. That's really fun to see because they're at closing, they're just so happy to move in and so excited and you just feel so happy for them.
And then, so there's that bright side. And then on the other side, there's coming into a transaction where somebody is losing a home. Maybe they're going to lose a home. There's death, there's divorce, there's all of the, not so pretty parts of life. And like, how's that been for you to navigate through?
Yeah. Sometimes it's, difficult to see somebody having to go through that. At that point, you just try to, like I said, be empathetic, but also help them with their emotions and show them, this is a transaction. This is like, this is what you need to do, but you have to also be a therapist at some points, but that's not always fun to have to go through the divorce ones or the ones losing their houses. But usually I don't think there's been many where in the end they were upset with how it turned out, that because they knew that was the best for them, whether they had to sell the house and split the money or whatever. Usually it was towards what the needed goal was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other advice would you give to people just thinking of getting into this business, or maybe they're in the business and struggling?
Yeah. I would say, if you're getting into it or struggling, while you're in it, I think finding an agent that is looking for help like I did would be really beneficial, because I think a big thing for a lot of my business is coming from is obviously for the first couple of years I wasn't getting, I didn't have a lot of experience under my belt, or like I couldn't say, oh, I've helped buy and sell this many listings or sell these many listings. But since you and I are co-listing them, even if they were like originally like your clients and I put my name on that contract, I can go onto my marketing and be like, I was the listing agent for these 10 houses, my first year, even though it was like your client. So that was something that really helped as a new agent, is get somebody that would want you as a partner, or somebody that would at least, whatever your money splits are, at least get your name on the contract and then use that for your marketing for the rest of your life.
And the power of getting into the business, because I love we're total opposites, right? So as we're talking through this whole episode, I'm just thinking of our personality styles. Like I love the out front facing marketing, sales, pulling the deals in, but like you've seen my zero attention to like detail. I hate the details and the contracts and all the transaction coordination and everything like that. But that's where you thrive and where you love it. So I mean, it's been a great team.
Yeah, no, it's good. All that stuff, it's just easy. I feel like I can just brush through it super fast. It doesn't bother me doing it, but yeah, I like doing it. And then after, getting through that transaction, I like to focus on the things that I'm not as good at, like, creating content and stuff, which I do like doing. It's just, it's harder for me to actually get to that point of putting something out there or, doing it. But, it's good to have a good dynamic where some, people are good at one thing, not as good at another thing, and just helping each other out and getting the business rolling.
And there's some really successful teams. I mean, that are out there that have been team. I mean, so C3, right? That whole company was founded. John and Jesse, they've been a team since I think day one. Since those guys both got into the business. Yeah,
and I really love C3. It's been awesome working for and with them. They provide so much.
They do. Yeah.
Like marketing, backup. Like if I ever have a question, I can call so many different people up. Any of the agents are so willing to help if we need their help. If showings, like if you and I are both out of the country or something, we have a big group of people that would be willing to help do a showing if we needed it.
Wait a minute. Are we both gonna? And how does that happen? So we're both gonna be gone for a couple weeks now.
Yeah. I called you and I was like, so in September I'm gonna be traveling. I'm going back to Spain and doing something like Germany and Morocco. And I told you the dates, and then you're like, I'm also going to be in Spain during those exact dates. And we're like, oh no, we got to figure out what we're going to do.
Well, and there's always the saying in real estate, right? If things are slow, take a vacation. And that's honestly like the week before everything's gonna pop up. But no, they are a great brokerage. I mean, they have all the support that you need. But then also it's like, hey, if you're good on something and you don't need their help, they're letting you do your thing, and they're always there for you. I mean, they've grown fast. They've really gotten established, and they've just got some great agents. Love the dynamic there. Love the culture there. And I'm not there as much as you, but I love what those guys have done in the community in the short time they did it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All great people.
What other kind of just leadership lessons, life lessons do you want to share, man, as we're wrapping things up? We're getting pretty close here, and loved having you on the show.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't know. I think if you're listening to the show, obviously so you're interested in leadership and everything. And I think it's just something that if you kind of, humble yourself and know that you can learn more all the time, and just watch the podcast or read a book, or even the trial and error with your own business and with your employees, or even if you're an employee with your employer, showing leadership and also learning from other people is a big thing. And just knowing there's always more that you can learn and do.
It's a journey. Yeah. It's never ending.
Yeah. And the trial and error thing is a huge thing. Like, it's not going to be perfect. You can't expect it to be perfect either, because it's never going to be, but trying and then learning, that's how you fine tune it.
Yeah. What do you think has been your biggest leadership? I wouldn't even say failure, but just lesson where you tried it, really missed the mark, called a failure. And like, what was the big lesson out of that you would share with somebody else that might be about to make it?
I'm trying to think of any specific example. I feel like sometimes the failure would be if I'm in a leadership position and maybe making a call that maybe I'm not the most knowledgeable on, when I could have leaned on somebody else to make the call, or maybe learned a little bit more. Sometimes it's good. You got to take the jump and maybe take those leadership jumps to learn that, like I did, and then like, oh, maybe that wasn't, could have used some more help, or next time I know not to take that decision making. Yeah. But this kind of also hard. You don't want to be too nervous to make a decision, but you also want to make the right decision. So
absolutely,
I think sometimes those are the situations you're like, man, I messed up. I should have done this, but you got to do those.
And you can't beat yourself up too much.
Yeah. No.
Well, hey, so we're getting ready to wrap up. So when you came to the building, you're obviously in the building.
Yeah.
A lot. You're here at the coffee bar a lot. Yeah. We have our big color swatch wall outside, and you grab your favorite color. Mm-hmm. And we close out the podcast doing something really fun and unique. Is you wrote down a statement that you want to leave with the world when you leave the world. What is that statement?
Yeah. So I wrote down two little ones. One of them I went into already, forgiveness heals. I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people could use. And it's a great day to have a great day, because I think a positive mindset starting a day could help a lot with a lot of things too. And might be tough, but if you have that good mindset and it's going to be a good day, a lot of times that will manifest into, having a positive attitude that day.
And I love it. Gunnar Greenlee, that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Appreciate it.
Are you ready to make massive breakthroughs in your leadership, and do you want to do so in a really unique way? You should consider coming to Spain with me. April 27th to May 4th of 2024, I am hosting the Ultimate Immersion Experience in Spain. I'm taking a very small group of business owners and business leaders over to Spain for the fun, sun, food, culture, and cuisine of the country. But more importantly, we are going to be putting together some very intentionally crafted adventures, challenges, and experiences to massively push you out of your comfort zone and learn about your own leadership in a very unique way. Go to mattshoup.com, click on the Travel to Spain with Matt button, and check out the Ultimate Immersion Experience.